What's up, everybody? Welcome on in, or shall I say, mahalo. It's Warchant TV. He's Irish O'Fell, managing editor of Warchant.com. Corey Clark, lead and senior writer for the website. I'm Aslan Hajjamani, director of digital media. Promo code scrolling at the bottom. Use it. Thumbs up as well here on YouTube. It's December. It feels kind of like July in Florida. It's kind of warm out, so I'm wearing a little bit of my Hawaiian-themed stuff, but also because Florida State got a quarterback commitment on Sunday afternoon, a grad transfer. Maybe you've heard of him. His name is McKenzie Milton from UCF. Corey Clark, we'll start with you. Since I guess we'll podcast with you. I want to hear what your takes are now so I can prepare for the podcast later on. We tossed this back and forth in the middle of those slow weeks where Florida State wasn't playing football games. Would they go to the transfer market? Should they? You wrote a column. McKenzie Milton's one of the names that we did kick around. What was your sort of reaction when you first saw him tweeted out on Twitter Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good get for Mike Norvell, and he needs something like this. This is positive. It's positive news. Finally, you're coming off a win, and then you get, I don't know, probably the biggest name grad transfer quarterback on the market. Now, there are some issues with it. He hasn't played in 2.5 years. He had a devastating injury, and you do have quarterbacks on your roster that you wonder how that will impact them. But I don't think right now that matters to you at all. I think. You were getting a guy that's thrown for, I think, almost like 10,000 yards and a gazillion touchdowns. He was kind of in the Heisman running. He led UCF to that famed national championship back in 2017. They had the parade. This, for a team that's 3-6, for a team that's been beaten soundly in most games this season, for them to get this big a name on the grad transfer market is a really big deal. And it also, there might be some receivers that are looking to go somewhere else that might say, you know what, I want to go play with that guy for a year. So all in all, it's a really big deal and a really nice signing for Mike Norvell, or commitment, I guess. He hasn't signed yet.
I remember over the summer, Ira, I kind of talked about, I really would have liked to seen them go after JT Daniels just for none other reason to make the splash of grabbing a kid that had a really strong season one year at Southern Cal. Milton is almost exponentially more decorated than the one season that JT Daniels had. I mean, what was your reaction? Just how big of a sort of splash marketing move almost is it to get a name like this committed this early on, I guess?
I mean, I just think it's big on a lot of levels. From that standpoint, it validates a little bit of Mike Norvell and this offensive staff. They've been kind of punched in the face a lot over the last 12 months, the last 6 months, particularly once games started being played. Especially, you've had a lot of players leave the team. You've had people questioning, why are all these guys leaving? Is that a bad sign? Is this really the guy? Can he get it done? And then the other big question about Mike Norvell and his staff was whether or not they could recruit at this level. Well, here's a situation where you have a quarterback that could have gone to a lot of different places. A lot of teams around the country would have loved to have McKenzie Milton in their program, but he chose Florida State. And so that's a positive. The fact that what he can do for them on the field, as Corey said, you have Jordan Travis, who just played well on Saturday, is expected to be the front runner for the starting job going into next season. But you also have Chubba Purdy, who has started a game this year, and a lot of people hope that he might be the guy in the near future for Florida State. So it is going to be a little bit complicated, but yeah, I think it's big on a lot of levels. And also one thing that we can talk about a little bit more is the thing that everybody talks about him. There are the numbers. He completed about 62% of his passes, threw for over 9,000 yards, 70-something touchdowns. Also is an active, a mobile threat as a runner. But the leadership skills, and that's the thing that everybody talks about when they talk about this guy, is that he's just a winner. If you watch that video that they put out when he announced he was transferring, it was just so first class, and apparently that's who he is. And for a guy in Mike Norvell who's trying to create the right culture and wants winners in his program, you couldn't have drawn up a better example of that than McKenzie Milton.
How worried are you, Corey? I don't know if worried is the right word, but that was the one thing that you touched on earlier and you mentioned in your column is just kind of managing the egos and the emotions of these other guys on the roster by bringing a guy like Milton in, or bringing in any sort of transfer. Then you bring in a guy with this kind of name, this sort of brand, if you will. Me personally, I just don't think you really can be in the business of worrying about what your 3-6 football team feels like. You have to do everything you can to make them better. Do you think it's going to be a big obstacle to get everybody on the same page?
Well, yeah, probably, but I don't know that that's really a concern. You're looking at those stats right there. In about 2.5 seasons, he accounted for 92 touchdowns. So Chuba Purdy and even Jordan Travis don't have the right to say, hey, what are you doing? Like they're getting a guy that's accounted for over 9,000 yards, almost 10,000 total yards, and over 90 touchdowns in 3 seasons. Florida State, until yesterday, had scored 21 touchdowns in the season total. So no, I don't. You are going to have to worry about what you. There is a possibility that right now you have 3 quarterbacks on your roster. All 3 have started a game. I think all of us would be surprised if all 3 are on the roster at this time next year. I mean, that's just the nature of the sport in 2020, and in that case, 2021. But also, if this guy gives you the best chance to win in 2021, which Norvell, I think, clearly thinks he does, otherwise, why do this? Then yeah, you have to go for it. And look, man, I'm a big fan of Jordan Travis. I think he can be a quarterback, a good quarterback in the ACC. But he can't stay healthy. He hasn't shown – I shouldn't say that. He hasn't shown the ability to stay healthy. What a great fallback plan McKenzie Milton is. Or the vice versa. If McKenzie Milton gets hurt or is ineffective, you have Jordan Travis waiting in the wings. I think the person you worry about, and again, worry is too strong a word because you really don't, is Chuba Purdy. Like what? This kid's just a freshman. He'll be a freshman next year. You hope he's patient and understands, look, this is a 1-year gap. You will be a sophomore and have a chance to win this job, even if McKenzie Milton comes in and takes it. But that's what I think you wonder about a transfer. To me, that would make the most sense if anybody was going to leave or be upset or wonder where they fit on the roster. To me, it would be Chuba Purdy.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it could be a perfect situation. And if I'm Mike Norvell, the way I'm selling it, and I think it makes sense, is listen, if you're talking to Chuba Purdy, you say, look, McKenzie Milton has 1 year here. It's not like he's coming in and he's going to be a 3-year starter. And, Jordan Travis, if you're talking to him, you say, listen, man, you on that offense with a McKenzie Milton and a couple of the other pieces we're bringing in with an offensive line that's getting better, this offense is going to put up huge numbers. And McKenzie Milton's not going to want to be a guy that necessarily carries the ball a ton either after that knee injury 2 years ago. So we can use both of you guys, and you guys can both get opportunities, and then you can get opportunities in the slot maybe, and maybe as a running back. We're going to find ways to use you, and sometimes at quarterback, just not all the time at quarterback. And I think you could sell it to both of those guys that way. Chuba, you may not be the guy next season, but that gives you another year in the system. And then 2 years from now, when you take over, well, I guess he has this conversation with Chuba and Tate.
Yeah.
When you guys step in a couple of years from now, this whole thing is going to be better off because of what we do in the short term with McKenzie Milton. So I think that's how you sell it, and I think that could work. But to your point earlier, I mean, if Chuba Purdy or any of them really decide that they can't stay here if McKenzie Milton comes in, I mean, that's just the price you have to pay, because this is a very fortuitous opportunity for Mike Norvell and his staff.
And this kid is a kid that can sling it. I mean, he obviously, you look at those numbers, he's kind of got that. If you watched any of those games when he played, he's got that gunslinger mentality, but he's also got the one thing that Jordan Travis really has to improve on is not just his accuracy, but getting rid of the ball on time, seeing it quickly, figuring out where the defense is and getting it on a receiver quickly. Now, he didn't have any receivers yesterday to throw to, but that's another story. Being around this for a year, being around someone that sees it like that slings it like that will put it in tight windows, that can throw from different arm angles and roll out to the right or the left. This is a natural thrower of the football. This guy can really, really throw the ball. And, you wonder how much they can sell that too. Like, look, this is almost like a GA coming in. This guy's 23 or 24 years old. He's been a college quarterback since I was a kid. And now he's going to come in. You get a year to watch him. And this is if he wins the job. Either way, he's going to make you better. I think that's the selling point. And also, yeah, man, I'm sorry, Jordan. I'm sorry, Chuba. But your feelings don't matter as much as my job. And it doesn't matter as much. And I'm talking about Norvell now. If Norvell says to them, look, our fans want to win games. This kid in 2021 gives us the best, him being on the roster gives us a greater chance of winning games. That's how you sell it. And if that hurts their feelings, go win the job from them then.
Aslan, you're probably the most active college football watcher of the three of us in terms of watching non-SEC and non-ACC games. I think you seem to pay more attention to all of college football, maybe a little bit more than either one of us do. How much did you enjoy watching him play? And what did you think of him as a player?
Kid's dynamite, man. He's the two things I think that are the takeaways for me is that you lost a high school prospect and Luke Altmaier that I think is going to be really good. And you kind of quickly went to work and you made this happen. Those are the two things for me, is that Norvell identified kind of that he lost his top option, quickly goes and tries to find the next best thing, which might even be an upgrade. And then I also think the credit kind of goes to Norvell and Dillingham for working with the quarterbacks they have on this roster and then kind of determining that maybe they're limited there. Maybe they're limited in the near term with what Chubba Purdy can be. Maybe they're limited long term in what Jordan Travis can be throwing the ball. This guy just seems to fit much more of what they want to do. Corey mentioned, I think, on a podcast, I'm sure McKenzie Milton remembers playing against Memphis a few times and kind of seeing what that offense was doing and what he had to go on the field and do for UCF to keep up with Memphis, and probably realizes how good of a fit it can be. Yeah, I mean, even if this kid obviously is not going to be who he once was with his knee injury, man, the kid still is a talented thrower. He sees the field so well, and just sort of the synergy he had with Josh Heupel at UCF and I guess Scott Frost for a season there as well. Just he's shown you that he can do it with two different coaches. It just huge pickup, man. This is big,
compare
man.
that to the last time they lost a quarterback recruit so late in the game.
Yeah.
And they didn't have anybody to bring in, and it ended up being what, Hornibrook? So you lost Sam Howell and brought in Hornibrook. Well, you lost that by a mile. This time you lost Altmaier, and you bring in a guy that's thrown for 10,000 yards at the college level. That to me is if you want to sign for maybe like people planning and having irons in a fire and knowing we need help at the quarterback position, again, you're thinking long-term about this coaching staff and this head coach. That's a very, very good sign that, okay, we lost Altmaier, we wanted him, but our backup plan is a guy that was a Heisman candidate, that's and won a national champion. Yeah. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but that's a really good sign, right? It says a lot about Dillingham and Norvell to have that iron in that fire to be able to get McKenzie Milton.
Well, the two other things I want to hit on real quick is, one is we don't know that they're done here. They're still recruiting high school players. Jake Garcia, the kid who was committed to Southern Cal, is supposed to be considering Florida State, Miami, and maybe one other school, but it seems like it's probably going to be Florida State or Miami. So they still could bring in a high school player as well, which would be important. And then the other thing is, I think when you look at, going into the early signing period on Wednesday, I mean, it's been a rough go of it for the last couple of months for Florida State in recruiting, but now you had a win over Duke, which whatever, it's Duke, but the offense showed some things. There was some crafty play calling. There was some good execution. You saw promising young athletes, and then you follow that up with bringing in McKenzie Milton. If there are guys, I'm not saying they're going to go snag recruits from other powers, Alabama or Clemson or anybody like that. But if there are guys that were somewhat interested in Florida State, but not sure because of what happened this season, you go into this early signing period, it's got to give you a big lift.
Corey, I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that was my turn to talk.
It was a showstopper.
Well, Jeremiah Holloman's a kid. I don't know how involved there. He's a kid that I think committed to Georgia, was at FIU, and he's put his name back in the portal at receiver. He's just physically imposing and actually, put some good stats up for FIU in limited time. I would hope that maybe that's a kid that they'd be involved with, but for sure. I think people real recognizes real, or whatever the kids like to say. People that are in the transfer portal are the same age, the same vintage of McKenzie Milton. They know what that kid did at UCF. I'm sure that name being now connected and tied to Florida State is going to have to help them and make some inroads.
But also just high school kids in the early signing period.
Yeah, but like you said, look, as dynamic as Jordan Travis is, if you're recruiting a high school wide receiver or a grad transfer wide receiver, and he wants to look at your offense, they're like, well, look, Portier had 2 balls thrown his way. That doesn't seem that appealing to me. And you're like, well, and you can say, well, look, that's what we have to do because that's his skill set. Now we're bringing in this dude, and you show him the UCF film, and you show him the stats of all those UCF receivers that he threw to, and now all of a sudden that's a much more appealing offense to play in for a wide receiver.
I kind of stuttered and stammered through this, but, I just think, Jordan Travis has been a revelation to a certain degree. I certainly didn't think he'd be nearly this dynamic and explosive. I don't know how much of that can be replicated if he's a package guy where he just comes in limited bursts. I think it's much more, manageable, or you won't be able to catch teams off guard the way he does when he's getting every single snap. But I think credit to this coaching staff for knowing what they want to be offensively, how they have to move the ball, what is going to be sort of, I don't know where I'm trying to fire, but what can actually be something that's sustainable offensively. I don't think, and it's not even so much Jordan's health. I don't think Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham want to be in the game, in the business of quarterbacks having to make something out of nothing 4 or 5 times in a game to make their offense hum. And I think they've identified a guy that can be what they need, and they went after and got him. And I'm sure there's probably really steep competition. I can only imagine the teams that wanted him, and you probably would even scratch your head. You're like, wow, he picked Florida State over team X, Y, and Z. And again, just kind of credit to the staff for getting it done. I'm super stoked. I'm more excited than I was like 16 hours ago when Florida missed a field goal against LSU and lost to a team they were a 24-point favorite to, and now won't be playing for a national championship. It doesn't get any better, man. Let's go.
Let's hope Milton can throw the ball as far as that kid threw the shoe.
That's right.
That was a nice toss. It was a nice toss. He didn't put a lot of touch on it.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Good distance.
That the referee gave us the exact distance. I want to see the all 22 to see if he overestimated or if that was right on the money. It was a 20-yard toss, but that was awesome. And one thing real quick, though, we're talking about McKenzie Milton. He makes this team better no matter if he plays a snap. Because I think you just having that, like Ira said, having that presence in the locker room. But there is no guarantee that he's going to be the guy he was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And there's no guarantee that he's going to beat out Jordan Travis. But or Chubba Purdy for that matter. But if one of those two guys is going to win the job, they'll have to beat out McKenzie Milton, which should tell you, okay, they're really good. They played really well in the preseason. It's just going to make, as I like to say it, iron sharpens iron. I coined that one a while ago, as we all know. But I do think that whoever Florida State's quarterback play is going to be worlds better than it was to start 2020. We can all agree on that, right?
I like that you just have so many different iron metaphors is what I like about you. You got irons in the fire. You got iron sharpening iron. You got any other ones? Anything with a tire iron maybe? Anything else you can come up with?
I mean, what was that? I'm gonna hit Aslan with a tire iron if he does that again. What
I'm saying? Like this is last year, man. This is 365 days ago. Actually, is it up on the screen right now? It's not.
Nope.
No.
There it goes. I mean, let me rewind it back a little bit, man. This is a little over 365 days ago. Senior night, November 30th, 2019. I mean, he's walking quite gingerly. A lot can happen in the course of a year, obviously. But I guess just to Corey's point to kind of manage expectations. Real quick, Ira, just in terms of he does plan on being here in January. To Corey's point, your point about him making the quarterback room a better place. He did tell Andrew Adelson of ESPN.com he doesn't expect to be named the starter. He does want to earn it. But he does think it's important for the best man to win and to show his teammates that he is possibly the best option. And then also there was another thing I wanted to hit on. But yeah, basically the most important thing is that he does plan on being on campus for team workouts starting in January. So
just one real quick thing on the injury. I mean, from everything we've heard, he was able to practice this past season, and he's clear. I mean, he's cleared to play football. It's not like that's a big question mark right now. Now, how he holds up, and whether or not he has any setbacks, we'd have to see. But right now, it doesn't seem like the injury is. It's not like they're signing him or bringing him in as a 50-50 type of thing. They expect him to be able to play.
Oh, the other thing was first day, his name was in the portal. Dillingham and Norvell both reached out to him. He told Andrew Adelson of ESPN.com. Again, that's just another way of them identifying and going after what they needed to. So another kind of round of kudos. Corey,
I was just going to say, you wonder about just that layoff. You know, not playing live football for 2.5 years. That's a lot, maybe 3.5 years at that point.
Yeah, it's just but he will play. But I think he's practiced, and I think he would get a spring in if they have spring football.
Yeah,
just assume they will.
He'll go 3 years, but a little over 3 years between actual college football games, which is a lot. But hey, at least he would get to start with Notre Dame.
Hey, man.
I don't think it's over 3 years. I mean, didn't it happen in 2018?
Yeah. By the time he plays, it'll have been almost 3 years. It'll be.
You said over. You said over 3 years.
Hey, what are we doing?
It's the war for I-4. It was November 2018. I think it was the last game of the regular season. I'm guessing because they probably
3 years without playing a college game is a lot. But again, it's not 20 years. He just he gets to play Notre Dame to start off.
Look at Alex Smith in the NFL. I mean, seriously, with the football team in Washington D.C. Sustained I think even a more ghastly sort of catastrophic injury, and he's actually starting for a team in the NFL right now.
Overall, just really good news, though. Yeah. And it caps a weekend where your rival lost, like we said, on the shoe toss. Your other rival gave up 900 yards rushing. Your Clemson didn't even play, so they didn't win. Your basketball team beat Florida again. You won a game finally. And then you get McKenzie Milton, the biggest name grad transfer, a former Heisman candidate, to transfer to your team. That's a really nice stretch. This has been the best 24 hours for Florida State fans, probably since they beat Gus Malzahn. Oh, wait, and he's gone too.
Sorry, Gus.
Way to tie it all in together, Corey. All right, we'll do a podcast later on. Ira's got some stuff going on over on warchant.com. I'm sure there's stuff going over on the premium recruiting board. As Ira said earlier, Wednesday's the early signing period begins, which is crazy to think they're going to be doing that while preparing for Wake Forest possibly. So it's also still going to be game week coming up. So I'm sure we're going to be speaking to Mike Norvell on Monday. Can we ask him about Milton, Ira? Is he allowed to speak about him specifically?
I don't think so. I don't think until he turns in whatever paperwork he has to do. I don't think so.
Financially. Yeah, because is that what Dalvin did when they were trying to win the playoff or whatever? All right. That's that. Okay, go to warchant.com. Promo code scrolling below. Use it, Warchant30. For Ira and Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for watching this edition of Warchant TV.
Thanks.
Aloha.